In this video, we are going to discuss about constructors in inheritance in Python programming. We know what is a constructor and inheritance. Constructor is mainly useful in order to construct an object, in order to provide initial values to the object. We have two types of constructors are there: parameterized constructor, parameterless constructor. Parameterless constructor means the constructor without any parameters. Parameterized constructor means the constructor with parameters. There is no need to call the constructor explicitly. Whenever an object is created, then automatically the constructor will be called. We know what is inheritance. Inheritance means creating a new class from the old class. So now the new class acquires the features of the old class. We have different types of inheritance are there: single, multiple, multi-level, hierarchical. The major use of the inheritance is reusability. We can use the members of the base class in derived class without declaration. Without redeclaration, we can make use of base class members in the derived class. So that is reusability. In this video, we are going to discuss about how to use constructors in inheritance, how to pass parameters to the base class constructor from the derived class. That can be done with the help of the super keyword. So how to use super keyword in order to call the super class constructor, how to use super keyword in order to call the super class method. All those things will be discussed in this video. So first let us create two classes. One is base class and another one is derived class. So let we have a base class. So class, let name of the base class is B, base. So in base, let us assume that this B is uppercase letter. Now let us define a constructor in the base class. We know how to define a constructor by using def keyword, def space, underscore, underscore, init. So init method is nothing but constructor, underscore, underscore. Within the parenthesis, we must pass self as the parameter, comma. Let us assume that base class constructor contains two parameters. Let the first parameter is roll number. Let the second parameter is yes. So colon. Next we have to perform the initialization. We know that in class in Python programming, there is no need of any declaration. We can use the self keyword in order to perform the initialization. So self dot roll number is equal to roll number. Next self dot yes is equal to yes. Okay. So here we have a base class which contains a constructor. Now let us define the derived class. So class, let name of the derived class is derived. In derived, let D is uppercase letter. Here this is nothing but inheritance. Okay. So how to implement inheritance in Python programming? We have to pass the name of the base class within the parenthesis. So what is the name of the base class? Base. So we have to pass that base class name within the parenthesis. Okay. Now let us define a method. Initially don't define any constructor here. So def, let name of the method is display. Display. We must pass self as the parameter. Let us display roll number and the name. So print of self dot roll number, comma, self dot name. Self dot roll number, comma, self dot name. Okay. Here this is nothing but derived class which is inheriting from the base class. So whenever derived class is implemented, then in derived class we can use all the attributes of the base class. Here what are the attributes of the base class? Here we have roll number and yes. We can make use of base class members in derived class also. Now the derived class contains roll number as well as name and it contains one method. Okay. Now let us create an object. In inheritance, generally we will create an object for the derived class only. Okay. Let name of the object is D. So what is the name of the class? Derived. Derived. So D is equal to derived. So here we have to pass two parameters. So what is the first parameter? Name of the first parameter is roll number. Name of the second parameter is name. So let the roll number is 72. Let the name is Ramesh. We know that name is a string. It is enclosed in quotations, either single or double quotation. Now let us call the display method. So D dot display. Display. So here an object is created for the derived class. So 72 comma Ramesh. 72 comma Ramesh. So the control goes to the derived class. We know that whenever an object is created, then automatically the constructor will be invoked. But here derived class doesn't contain any constructor. So now the control goes to the base class constructor from the derived class. Here let us display one statement. So print off. So this is nothing but base class constructor. We know that base class can also be called as super class also. So let us display the message as super class constructor. So whenever this object is created, then superclass, then whenever this object is created, then subclass constructor will get invoked. But here subclass doesn't contain any constructor. So the control will goes from this subclass to the superclass constructor. Here we have a superclass constructor. So this body will get executed. So we will get the message as superclass constructor. And once the execution is over, then the control comes to the derived class. Derived class. After that, the control comes to the next statement. Okay. Next statement after this object creation. Now, what is the value of the roll number? 72. This 72 will be stored in the roll number, and this Ramesh will be stored in. So, I'm sorry. Here we have name. So, roll number comma name. So, self dot name is equal to name. Self dot name is equal to name. Now roll number contains 72, name contains Ramesh. Next to D dot display. So derived class display method will get invoked. Display, print of self dot roll number comma self dot name. So what is roll number? 72. What is name? Ramesh. So that will be printed. Super class constructor and then 72 space Ramesh will be printed. Now let us assume that subclass, that is derived class, also contains a constructor. Let us assume that here derived class also contains a constructor. So def underscore underscore init of self comma, let it contains its parent class members. What are its parent class members? Roll number comma name. Let derived class member is yes. So def underscore underscore init underscore underscore of, we must to pass self as the parameter comma. This roll number and name are nothing but its parent class members, whereas age is nothing but this derived class member. Okay. Now let us perform the initialization. So self dot roll number is equal to roll number. Next to self dot name is equal to name. Self dot name is equal to name. Next to self dot age is equal to age. Self dot age is equal to age. Okay. So here we have defined a constructor here. Let us display some message here. Print of. So this is nothing but subclass constructor. So print of subclass constructor. Okay. Next, in addition to roll number and name, let us pass age. Let age is 35. Now let's see how the program will get executed. D is equal to derived of 72 comma Ramesh comma 35. So whenever an object is created, then automatically derived class constructor will get invoked. Here we have derived class constructor. So this constructor will be executed. So what is the roll number? 72. Now roll number contains 72. Name contains Ramesh. Age contains 35. Next, print of subclass constructor. So print of subclass constructor. So now we will get the message as subclass constructor. After that, control comes to the next statement after the object creation. D dot display. So control goes to the display method. So now this message will be printed. 72, Ramesh 35. So in this occasion, this superclass constructor will not be executed. So here the problem is, if superclass as well as subclass contains a constructor, and if we create the object, then only this subclass constructor will be invoked. This superclass constructor won't be executed. So in this type of situation, how to execute superclass constructor? That should be done with the help of the super keyword. Here we have a statement called, for space constraints I am writing here. Later we will see practically, there you will get the perfect clarity if you have any doubts. So super dot underscore underscore init of what are the parameters of the superclass? Roll number and name. So we can pass those parameters. So roll number comma name. So super, we have to use super keyword here. So super left parenthesis right parenthesis super dot, what is the constructor name? Underscore underscore init underscore underscore of, it contains two parameters. So we have to pass those parameters. So now whenever this constructor is executed, then what is the statement here? We have super dot underscore underscore init of roll number comma name. So now whenever this statement is executed, then superclass constructor will be executed. Okay. So we will get the message as superclass constructor. Next to some initializations will be done, and after that here these initializations will be done. Next to print of subclass constructor. So all those messages will be printed now. Okay. In this example, if we observe here, self dot roll number is equal to roll number, self dot name is equal to name. Here also we have self dot roll number is equal to roll number, self dot name is equal to name. We can eliminate these two statements now. Why? Because here we passed those parameters from this constructor, from this function call. So now there is no need of these two initializations. That is the advantage of the inheritance, reusability. Already roll number and name are nothing but parent class members. Already initialization was done there. So here there is no need of doing any initialization. Now let us have a method here. So def display, instead of display we can use some other name also. So self, let us display roll number and name here. Self dot roll number comma self dot name. Now there is no need to display roll number and name here. Let us display only print of self dot age. Let us display only age here. Here if we want to call superclass method from the subclass, we can use a statement called super dot name of the method. Let name of the method is dis. Then we can write as super dot dis. Okay. Now let's see how the program will get executed. D is equal to derived of 72 comma Ramesh comma 35. So whenever this statement is executed, then superclass constructor will be executed. Here we have the superclass constructor def underscore underscore init. Here we have superclass constructor. Here we uses this statement super dot underscore underscore init underscore underscore of roll number comma name. So whenever this statement is executed, then its superclass constructor will be called. So now this constructor will be called. So superclass constructor, we will get this message. Next roll number initialization and name initialization was done. What is roll number here? What is roll number? 72 and Ramesh. Now roll number contains 72, name contains, now roll number contains 72, name contains Ramesh. Then after that remaining statements are executed. Self dot age is equal to age. What is the age? We passed 35. Now age contains 35. Print of subclass constructor. So subclass constructor will be displayed, that message will be displayed. And what is the next statement after the object creation? D dot display. Here the object is D, derived class object. So this display method will be executed. Print of self dot age. What is age value? 35. So 35 will be printed. Next super dot dis. Whenever the statement is executed, now its superclass dis method will get executed. Now this dis method will get executed. Roll number is 72, that message will be printed. Name is Ramesh, that message will be printed. So this is the use of super keyword as well as constructors in inheritance. So there are mainly two uses of super keyword. The first use is by using super keyword, we can call superclass constructor, and we can also pass parameters to the superclass constructor. And the second advantage is by using super keyword, we can call the superclass method. In Java, by using super keyword, we can access superclass variables. But in Python, that is not possible. By using super keyword, it is not possible to access the superclass variable. So this is about constructors in inheritance. Now let us see the practical implementation. Now let us see the implementation part. So what is the name of the program? Constructors in inheritance. So how to use constructors while implementing the inheritance. So first let us have the base class. So class, let name of the base class is base. Now let us define the constructor. Def space underscore underscore unit underscore underscore. In constructor we must pass self as the parameter. It has two parameters, rule number and name. Now let us do the initialization. Self dot roll number is equal to roll number. Self dot name is equal to name. So constructor is over. Base class is over. Now let us have the derived class. So class derived. Here we are implementing the inheritance. So we must pass base as the argument. Now here define the display method. So define display of. Method means we must pass self as the parameter. Here we are implementing the inheritance. So in derived class we can use roll number and name. So print of self dot roll number. Next to print of self dot name. Now here we are implementing the inheritance. It is better to create an object for the derived class. D is equal to derived of. We must pass two parameters. First one is some integer number, some number. Second one is some string. Now let us call the display method. So d dot display method. Now let us save the program. So let name of the program is some constructors, CON. Constructor, save the program, save. Now let us run the program, F5. So we got the message as 72 Ramesh. Here there is no problem. Why? Because here derived class doesn't contain any constructor. So whenever an object is created, then control goes to the derived class constructor. But in derived class we don't have any constructor. So the control goes to the base class constructor. Now roll number is 72, name is Mahesh. Okay. Now this is derived class. Now in derived class we can make use of the base class members. So we can print roll number and name now. So now there is no problem. Now let us assume that derived class also contains a constructor. Control C. Let us define a constructor in derived class also. Here this roll number and name are nothing but its base class members. Let us have one more member, age. Age is nothing but its own member. So self dot age is equal to age. Self dot age is equal to age. Now in order to know which class constructor executed, let us display the message print of. This is nothing but superclass constructor message, superclass constructor body. Likewise, let us display a statement in subclass also, so that we can get the clarity about which class constructor has got executed. So this is nothing but subclass constructor. Now let us save the program and run it. Yeah, we forgot to write so subclass constructor. So print of subclass constructor self dot. Let us see what is the error here. In it missing one required positional parameter called age. Here we missed one parameter. Here we need to pass age also. Let age is 35. So Control S. Now let us run the program. F5. So here subclass constructor. Here only subclass constructor got executed. Superclass constructor is not executed. That is the problem here. So how to call the superclass constructor? In order to call the superclass constructor, we can use super keyword. Super, we must use left parenthesis, right parenthesis, dot. What is the name of the constructor? Underscore, underscore, init, underscore, underscore. Here we have to pass parameters to the superclass constructor. What are the parameters we need to pass? Roll number comma name. So roll number and name are nothing but superclass parameters. Control S. So now whenever the statement is executed, then superclass constructor will get executed. So first we will get superclass constructor as the message. Next we will get subclass constructor as the message. Next roll number and name will get printed. If we display the message here, first we got superclass constructor message, next to subclass constructor message, next to 72 Ramesh. Here already we performed the initialization, roll number initialization and name initialization in superclass constructor. So there is no need to do that initialization in the subclass. We can eliminate those two statements. So here we have eliminated those statements. So self dot as is equal to as, control S. Now let us run the program. Okay, we got the output. Okay, so there is no problem if we eliminate those statements. Now let us have display method in superclass also. Def. Let us assume that here name of the method is dis. So self here display roll number and age, because roll number and roll number and name are nothing but the members of the superclass. So self dot roll number comma self dot name. Okay. Now here display only age, because age is nothing but this class member. Age is nothing but this class member. So self dot age. So how to call the superclass method from the subclass? So that should be done with the help of the super keyword. So super dot, what is the name of the method? Dis. So here roll number and age name was displayed in superclass, as well as whereas this age was displayed in this display method of the subclass. Now let us run the program. So there are no problems. We got the message as superclass constructor, subclass constructor, 72 Ramesh, 35. So in this way we can use constructors in inheritance in Python programming.